That was such a great episode. Why didn't more people listen? Sometimes I feel like, is this thing even on? Hi, my name is Neil Matthews. I too have been exactly what I just described. Wondering and wanting a second set of ears to hear my show. Well, that's when I came up with Podcast Insight Solutions, providing you insight and solutions into your show. Whether that be improving your interview style, improving your questions, getting the guests to really come alive, or maybe it's the audio. That's always a little shaky, or maybe it's the editing. I could get better at that. Well, that's where Podcast Insight Solutions comes in. I'd like to listen to your show, provide a second set of ears, and help you come up with solutions to those problem areas in your show. Right now, we're offering a free 30-minute consultation to take your show from meh to shining like a diamond. At Podcast Insight Solutions, we're transforming podcasts with expert insight. Book your consultation today.
Welcome home to Other People's Shoes, where every step tells a story. Get ready for an emotional journey like no other with Homecoming. Our homes are more than just a place. It's where we find safety, comfort, and connection through intimate conversations, heartfelt anecdotes, and inspiring stories. We believe that everyone deserves to feel welcomed and secure in their own home. Let us remind you of the beauty and warmth that home should bring. Other People's Shoes, where every step leads you to Homecoming.
Welcome home to Other People's Shoes. I'm your host, Neil Matthews. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really excited that you've chosen to stop by. I'm so glad that you're here today. I'm happy to be here today, and I hope you are as well. You know what makes me happy even to this day when I see it? It's that stinking Peanuts character. Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Linus, Pigpen, all the people. And there's one in particular that maybe from that character group that I've struggled with, and that's Lucy. Nowadays, I think we would consider her a bully. Nowadays, I think we would view her and maybe even counsel her because she is a bully to Charlie Brown. Like, she's so mean to him. Like, every time he tries to kick the football, quickly whisks it away and Charlie Brown ends up on his back. I'm sure he could file criminal charges against her, maybe get some chiropractic work covered by Lucy because she's a doctor after all. So she could maybe afford the bills, perhaps. Where am I going with all that? Just to say, all that to lead up to the doctor's in, and no, she's not Lucy, and no, she's not quite as mean. She's actually very nice. In fact, she's Mary in some respects. Help me welcome in my new friend, Dr. Mary. How are you today?
I'm good, Neil. Thanks for having me here. And I appreciate the non-comparison with Lucy, although I have to say I found her super funny. I grew up watching her because I am quite a bit older than you. I didn't think she was, well, okay, she was mean. She gave pretty decent advice. Stop it.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for today is some decent advice. I feel like you're famous.
Hey.
I've started following you on Instagram, and I feel like you've gotten to sit with all kinds of amazing people and some kind of famous people. I know her. We've had her on our show. We know her.
I wouldn't say famous. Yeah, maybe I've gotten around a little bit. I like talking to people. I like meeting people.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is.
That's what it probably
Yeah.
is. I'm sure that's what it is. It's not that you're famous, like there's no star on the Walk of Fame just yet, correct?
No.
Okay.
No. Maybe like a little outline that I drew in chalk the last time I was there. No star.
Well, the best part is you are from Canada.
I am.
And so that's always exciting to me because I always think there's this giant disconnect, at least in my brain, between the United States and Canada. Like, I always think of Canada as there's polar bears kind of roaming in certain parts, maybe Winnipeg, maybe in that Manitoba area. I'm running out of Canadian names. Toronto, perhaps. There are no penguins or polar bears just roaming the streets, right? You're not just like walking by them on your way to
Definitely not.
Starbucks. Okay.
We're not that far. I mean, you just cross the border and there you are. I live close to the border, so it only takes me a couple hours to get into the US. And I think on surface, we probably look a lot alike, but I think we're quite different. Like if you meet a typical Canadian or a typical American, there's not just the accent, but sometimes there's just some different flavors to how we present. I know for sure that when I go traveling around, though, people go, "Oh, you must be American." Nope, I'm Canadian.
Now, help me with this because I have had friends through the years that are Canadian. Now, the word Canuck, what does that invoke in you when I say Canuck to you?
It's an old term. Well, probably hockey would be one of them, but also it's an old term back in the day that was used humorously. Now, I wasn't born in Canada, although I feel extremely Canadian because I was raised here since I was 1. I was born in Taiwan. So I'm Taiwanese Canadian, which gives me a little bit more flavor than just your average Canadian. And that's one of the things is distinctive about Canada is that we do try to respect other people's cultures. I'm not saying you don't in America, but I think it's a bit more of a melting pot there. Whereas here we have like distinct areas like Little Italy, or you go to Greek town and Koreatown, and you have people, a lot of people within that culture who sometimes even maintain their own language and certainly their own foods and cultural vibe for sure. So that's kind of an important part of Canada, and I'm rather proud of too.
I want to push on your comment. I don't think we're very good at that in America where we respect people's culture. I think we could use some work on that. That's all I'm saying, at least the parts that I've been to.
Possibly. I think people identify perhaps as Americans first, maybe. There's a lot of pride in that. And maybe Canadians could do a better job of being proud of being Canadians. Maybe it's a bit of a cliche. It's a bit more of the low key, don't get in your face, just kind of take a chill. And so maybe it's not as memorable in some ways, but at the same time, we're easy to be around. Most of the time. Most of the time. And sometimes we're not. So
Most of the time. So help us with this. We're in this new series called Homecoming. And so we're asking people this, of course, earth-shattering question. And that's this is if we found some shoes by the front door of your house and maybe even my house, if you came over for like tea or maple syrup or pancakes or who knows what shoes might we find by my front door?
well, comfort is important to me and warmth. So probably, in fact, I'll show you. Do I have it here? First of all, sparkly purple, my favorite color, and warm and very, very soft. So comfortable is important. And I love to put my feet up. People go, oh, Dr. Mary, she must be all stiff and proper. I was this women's conference in Saskatoon. One of our wonderful hosts, she said her face was split so wide she couldn't stop laughing. It was highly inappropriate in my humor. So I do like to have my feet up and be comfortable, just myself. And I appreciate that with others as well. And I try to invite that in conversations that I have with people.
Well, I think that's the joy of this season, even the idea of coming home. And I think there's a level of comfort when I say, or when I think to myself, especially around the work time, the day's winding down and maybe I got an hour left, then I got 30 minutes left, and then I got 10 minutes left, then I got 5, and then I'm locking the door and I'm walking out the door to go home. What I love about it is the idea, again, of getting in my car and driving home.
Yeah.
There's something definitely like, when I started thinking about this homecoming idea in this coming home series, my house was in the process of being built, and now it is built. So thankfully we're in it now.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Awesome.
absolutely. And so that's exciting. The idea, again, of coming home, of putting on the pajamas or maybe putting on the comfortable clothes, sitting on the couch and just decompressing over the last bit of the day and relaxing. And then I started to think, well, that's as an adult, that's fine. As a child, I never wanted to come home. I wanted to stay away. I wanted to run track. I wanted to be in drama. I wanted to be in church activities. I wanted to be in all the things that kept me away from home. I never wanted to go home. In fact, if I was at home, I usually was probably in trouble or grounded.
Right.
The idea of coming home was never exciting to me. And now that I have a teenager, she's 17, she's rarely home. And I'm like, we built this amazing home. You love your room and you're never home. And she's like, Dad, that's just how it is. And I'm like, but I know, I don't understand it. So for you, when we talk about homecoming, what does that involve?
I can see your point and your daughter's point because I moved maybe 15 times before I turned 18. Lots of family dynamics around that. So I never really got too attached to where I lived. Did get attached to one particular home. It got sold out from under us. My family went bankrupt. I learned not to attach too much to stuff or to places. For me, coming home has always been about the people that I'm with. At the same time, a place that I can go back to, that's sort of your safety net. So when I think about my kids too, who are now young adults in their season of being teenagers, and now they don't live at home with us, but they actually still consider this home, as they'll say things like, we'll be coming home, blah, 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 and they'll come and stay for a little bit. And I think it's because we represent home to them and we provide that sense of safety for them. So for me, it's all about the relationships. And I actually work from home. So I have no car ride to get home. My office and my husband's office is on the other side, and homecoming is meeting in the middle, just seeing my honey. And it's just a sense of calm and peace. And that's probably the best way I can describe it. Starting with what I said about my slippers, too, is that comfortable is also just being able to be myself without having to pretend and know that I am accepted and I belong. That's kind of really important. I think the whole concept of coming home.
And I feel like right now, especially, my world doesn't feel the same as when it did when I was a child. Now, again, child eyes versus adult eyes. When I think of this idea of coming home and being at home and being at rest and being able to be comfortable and being okay, do you feel like, especially in your work and in what you've done and maybe even in your background, that you've struggled with that idea of being home and being comfortable and being at rest? Because let's face it, I'm a person that has struggled most of my life, truly, resting. Now, I'm really good at napping. My wife will attest to that. I'm a very good napper. I could win a gold medal in napping. Just saying, I'm very good at that. There's a difference between napping and really like resting, shutting off your mind, shutting everything down, shutting the computer down, if you will, shutting the screen off, all the things that we struggle with. I say we because I think it's a community issue, not a Neil issue. Maybe talk to me about the rest and the idea of how does Dr. Mary find her rest and her comfort?
I kind of want to go back a little bit to even your phrase about coming home and being at home. And I think of all places we need to be at home with is in our own skin. So being comfortable with who we are, knowing our inner world, knowing what's bothering us, how we're feeling, what's on our minds, all of those things, being accepting of that, recognizing that we're human, that we're going to have ups and downs in how we feel and all those things. But I would also say just like actually self-acceptance. I like myself as I am, as I've been created to be. I don't have to fight it anymore. I don't have to try to pretend. The difference between fitting in. Fitting in is I have to act a certain way. I have to follow the group norms. I have to be careful to color within the box in the hopes that I don't get kicked off the island. But belonging is I can be comfortable in my own skin and I like me, you accept me, even on my bad days. And I feel like I have a safe place to be. So I think that type of belonging, if you have that, then there's this sense of rest because you don't have to strive. You don't have to be always trying to please others or achieve something or gain something in order to find that sense of belonging. I've been thinking about in the last little bit as I'm maturing and am thinking about life and all that stuff. I think that's the one thing that I've worked on and have found peace in, being comfortable in my own skin and how I look in my culture. Being Taiwanese, came to Canada at a time in the 60s and 70s where racism was rampant. I tried to hide. How can you hide being Asian? But I tried. That's why they called me a banana in those days. Yellow on the outside, white on the inside. I really tried. There's a lot of shame in that. And so coming home to God made me Taiwanese. He made me to look this way. And I can be comfortable with that. I can be comfortable with how he's wired me. I think that is a deep way of looking at what you're saying.
I want to get into your book. Truly fascinated by this idea of rebecoming something. And to me, maybe this is where I'm a little different than most. We'll just raise my hand to that. I was thinking about your book too, because it reminded me a little bit, and maybe this is, again, my brain is different than everyone else's. It reminded me a little bit of a caterpillar in the idea that the caterpillar gets to rebecome something. It doesn't get to just stay a caterpillar forever. It gets to actually become a butterfly. And I don't know that much about caterpillars. I know very probably the same amount about butterflies. I know kind of the life cycle of a caterpillar. Like they get born, they eat a bunch of stuff, they go in the chrysalis or the cocoon, then they come out after some period of time and boom, they're a butterfly and they get to fly around, and that seems pretty awesome. I wonder about this for the caterpillar that has yet to become the butterfly. And this is where maybe it gets a little weird. But I wonder if there's ever a caterpillar that's munching along, and he stops munching for a second and he looks up and he sees a butterfly and he's like, man, that is so cool. They get to fly. Why don't I get to do that? I'm furry, I'm cool, kind of on the ground. That doesn't seem as cool. Why can't I do that? Why can't I fly? Little does he know he's going to become a butterfly one day.
Yes.
But he doesn't know that yet. I'm thinking like day 2 of being a caterpillar, like he doesn't know he's going to turn into a butterfly. He doesn't know the end of the story. And I wonder about that for people sometimes, is I feel like
Yeah.
They look around, they start comparing their lives to everyone else around them, and they're like, man, I want to be on the women's conference stage. Not me per se, but I want to be on a conference stage. I want to be on that thing. Like, how can I get to be the butterfly? Like, no, I'm just down here, the lonely caterpillar, maybe Joseph in the jail, going Bible reference there. Like, nobody's going to remember who I am, and I'm just going to munch along on the leaves and hope somebody sees me one day and hope I get discovered, or hope my Instagram reel is cool enough that somebody finally is like, hey, there's a butterfly over there. Look at that.
Yeah, I actually love that analogy because the butterfly is the caterpillar and the caterpillar is the butterfly. It's just an evolution, an evolved version of the same essential being or person. The caterpillar can spend all this time trying to be everybody else, but he can't or she can't. And it's a waste of their energy. If they let themselves follow along the way they've been designed, they will ultimately become that butterfly. But what's interesting, I believe that caterpillars, when they're in the cocoon, part of what I've been told is don't touch the cocoon. Caterpillar has to work really hard to get out of the cocoon. And in so doing, that's how they strengthen themselves to be able to fly. It's kind of a really neat analogy in that it does take hard work to, in the case of the name of my book, Become, your essential self is always with you. It goes into hiding. You feel like you have to be somebody else, or you have to do certain things to gain love. So it's being able to let go of that self effort and let what happens naturally in how you're designed. That doesn't mean you do nothing. You still have to fight through the hard stuff of life. You still have to grow through it. You still have to learn. In that growing, your wings become stronger so that you can actually fly and be that beautiful butterfly. So it's actually I should have taken that before I wrote the book and put that in the analogy. Oh, well, too late. Maybe version 2.
Your cover reminded me of that. I saw a leaf.
Yeah.
That's what I saw.
Uh-huh.
I saw a leaf in little spots, connecting points, like a dot to dot. That's what I saw. I don't know. I think of books, book artwork like real artwork. You can find your own picture out of it.
Well, it was chosen intentionally for it to look that way. The artist never really verbalized it. It's what I saw in it, and I saw a tree trunk with many, many rings denoting growth and age. I saw also light along the way and moving more and more centrally into the center of it, which is bright and shining. And that's when you kind of are your fullest self there. And it's a journey. The spots along the way are the many things and experiences you encounter as you go there. I can see that you think about things from a visual way, and it's pretty cool to hear how pictures and images strike you.
I think that's why I like doing podcast artwork, is it gives me a chance to be that artist that I never could be. I could never paint to save my life, but I do like a good visual picture. I like to kind of draw people in with that visual picture. So that's fun. To me, I heard this crazy thing recently that the self-help industry, and I'm not saying your book per se is maybe in that category, but maybe it is, that the self-help industry is now upwards of $1 billion annually industry, like book-wise, podcast-wise, all the things. It's like one of the fastest growing categories in books and in media. We'll put them in that same category. I thought $1 billion industry. I thought, wow. And I haven't been to Barnes and Noble in a long time. With all that in mind, the naysayers would say, well, you're just a pebble in the river, and you're going back to your analogy of the ring. You're just creating a little ripple in the river. You're not making this giant splash. So why write your book, do you feel like?
Well, that's the exact reason why it took me 10 years to even consider writing it. Because I wrote a book that came out in 2014. I thought about writing another book shortly afterwards. And I said, there's a lot of books out there in this genre. So I don't really want to say anything unless there's something new to say, which, as you know now, is pretty much impossible because it's all been said at some point or another. But through my story, through my lens, or through my voice, no. So that's kind of where I felt the encouragement to do that. At the same time, it didn't come out of what I thought I would write, which would be my expertise. So it's interesting because most self-help books are written typically by psychologists and psychotherapists and experts. And so it's not that I don't bring the science and the psychology into it, but I really bring myself into it. I couldn't write what I haven't myself lived, not having done it perfectly. Like I have to reread my own book over and over again because the journey of growth is so hard and we keep forgetting it. We keep going backwards. I felt like in some ways it was a bit of my story, almost like a memoir, but told in a path forward for other people to follow and find their own growth and their own sense or their own essential self. I mean, I use the term God-given essential self to differentiate it from soul, true self. There's a lot of terms floating around in the self-help world. I am a person of faith, and I do believe that we are created intentionally, purposefully, uniquely. I mean, you are one of a kind, Neil. We know that. There's no other Neil in the world, and God was very delighted in how he designed you. That is sort of core because we grow up in a world that tells us otherwise, that our worth is in our number of followers, in our performance, et cetera, et cetera. And we strive so hard to find that sense of worth through those things, and we fall short. That it's back to God's original design, which he created us in his image. He created us uniquely in his image so that I reflect an aspect of him as you reflect a different aspect of him. And together, maybe we can do something to change his world. It's not that that kind of stuff hasn't been said before, but again, like I said, it's through the unique voice that's mine. And I think for me, I struggled with having a voice. Doesn't matter how many credentials you have. If you struggle with insecurity, which I have, if you've ever struggled with not fitting in, feeling like an imposter, all of which I have struggled with, those were the things that were holding me back from writing the book. As I was working through it, I realized that part of my joy or triumph, I don't know how to call it, was being able to live it and then write it and not really care too much about how well it sells, but more so whose lives is this going to help? If this can help somebody, awesome. I have to get my mind out of the whole bestseller, how many self-help books are out there. You'll just drive yourself nuts. And it'll take you just down the road of the exact place I don't want to be, which is, again, based on my performance and what things I achieve. I don't want that. I hope my true voice of what I needed to say, what I wanted to say. I'll look back at it a few years from now, having grown further and kind of go, oh, well, I would have said it differently if I wrote it now. And I think self-help books different books resonate with different people. As unique as we are, it's great that there are many options for people to consider.
I think that's the challenge anytime you create something. Because I mean, I've created so many shows now. I mean, we're at 300 plus, and I get all the time, anytime I get into a podcast conversation, which is fairly regularly, somebody will say, well, what's your favorite show? And I was like, well, before I answer that, do you mind if I ask you something? And generally they're like, yeah, absolutely. Ask away. And I said, how many kids do you have? They'll generally say, well, you know, we have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Every now and then they'll say 1, which is rare. And I'll say, cool, which one is your favorite kid? Like, I can't answer that. And I said, well, I can't answer which one's my favorite show either. So there you go.
Right.
And so maybe that's the hard part in this question leading into that. Is there a chapter that you really felt like really spoke to you maybe more than another or came easier to write? And then if we were to flip that coin over, was there a chapter that really was like, man, this is a struggle. I know it has to be in here. Man, it is really rough to write.
I don't know that it was a specific chapter, then it was specific stages in the book writing process. The beginning to even start was really hard because I questioned, like you said, do we need another self-help book? But also I questioned that I even had anything to say of any value. I was going through one of the most difficult times in my life and professional life, wondering whether I actually had a voice. I really wrestled with it. Part of it was coming to terms with growing up Asian in a Canadian culture, growing up Christian, female, working in a church that was male-led, all of those things. And so I found myself in situations where I felt stuck. I felt like I couldn't be heard, all sorts of things. So it was actually a very hard season. That was probably the harder season. The actual writing of it, once there was permission to just write flows from me from what my experiences were, it flowed actually very quickly. I wrote it actually within 4 weeks. I took 2 months off, 2 weeks off 1 month and 2 weeks the other, and I wrote it pretty quickly because at that point I was ready. I was ready to just kind of speak it and share honestly and vulnerably, I hope. The one I cried most at, I guess, was writing the first chapter. The reasons why I wrote the book, because I was kind of reliving the hard stuff that I was going through that almost stopped me from doing it. And I'm proud of that chapter because I think it captures quite accurately what I was going through and what motivated me. From that standpoint, it was emotionally hard, but not hard. And then there's other chapters that were hard to write simply because I'm still not living out those realities. So there's a chapter on integration. I won't go into details of what that means, I start off by saying I had just tested myself on this score on this tool that measures integration, and I scored low. And I do this for a living. What? It was like a humbling reminder that I still had a lot of growth to do. So that was hard, the context of the work that I still needed to do in that particular area. And my favorite, I don't know, I think my intro would be the favorite, as I said, even though it was hard emotionally, just because I feel it really captures me.
That's our challenge. I think every day is trying to, one, be better than we were yesterday. That's one of my favorite phrases that my dad gave me. He didn't give me a ton, but he gave me that one. He said, be better than you were yesterday. When I say that to you, does that do anything? Does that make you feel like you have to be perfect? What does that do for you?
It doesn't. For me, it's about the intention. Just do better. Do better in what? Do better in singing, do better in dancing. For me, it's do better in my character, my growth. And I know my blind spots, at least the ones I know of now. I'm sure there's others I'll discover down the road. Just being self-aware enough to kind of go, okay, my old self would have reacted in this way, and I would probably have done something that would have hurt somebody. Today, I'm aware of that. I'm aware I'm hurt. I can choose better. And I can choose not to react. And I can choose to step away, calm myself down, and then re-engage when I'm calm enough to really speak from the place of my heart versus my anger. So that to me is what doing better is. I know where I need to grow, at least at this point in my life, and being very intentional about that, tracking real time when I'm getting triggered, when I'm feeling insecure or afraid or whatever it might be, trying to have a better response than I would have had in the past, and repeating it enough so that it becomes more transformational and a permanent part of my character. So it's not just a one-off where I was just lucky I took that better behavior that one day. It's a little bit more directional, do better, because you can do better in all sorts of random places and it doesn't add up to anything necessarily, but it's a little bit more movement towards. Having said that, it doesn't mean the actions have to be all the same or in one direction. So for example, if I say, I know I need to be more loving, I can spread that love around to many, many places and many people. So that does seem kind of random, but it's still the intention to love better and more. That is the path.
So on this journey that you've been on, has there been moments where there have been tears, or have there been moments of, this is too hard, I don't want to keep doing this? Maybe even dark moments.
All the time.
And then how do you counteract that? When you see it, you talk about being triggered. When you are triggered into those, maybe those dark moments or something that pulls you back into maybe the old way of life, the old caterpillar way, we'll say, how do you come out of that?
Well, I think this is going to sound like I'm a bit of a masochist, but I'm not. And I certainly don't look for hard times at all. I would avoid it as fast as anybody else. When I see it coming and I know I can't avoid it, there's an anticipation of the growth that comes out the other side of it. And I have confidence in God, my faith in Him to carry me through it. But I have confidence in my resilience as well. Part of growth is that I become more capable of handling tough stuff and I grow wiser as a result. I learn more about myself, about others, about God, about the world through that. Life sucks a lot of times. It's just really hard. And so much of it is outside of our control. And we could remain a victim and just kind of go, that bad stuff happened to me, or that person was mean to me. There's no change or growth. We're powerless, in fact. Or we can say, okay, I can't control the world or events or other people, but I can control my own reactions and choose growth and choose better in each time. Ultimately, I would say as I've gone through those hard times, what I feel at the end of it is greater sense of freedom, for sure. Out of that greater sense of freedom, a sense of joy, which is an odd thing to say. I mean, that's one of those odd things where you can experience joy and also through hard times. You feel closer to God through that. You feel closer to others if you choose to reach out to close to people that care about you. And there's beauty in that. And there is very rarely anything that's all bad or all good. Often things are a mix of the two. It's in some ways shadow of the darkness shows the beauty of the colors. It's kind of like that. The experience of joy can only come if you allow yourself to experience great depths, because otherwise you're just flatlining your way through life and you're feeling nothing. And it might protect you, kind of, but it keeps you stuck and it doesn't allow you to be fully human, which is the capacity to experience great joy, but also great sorrow. And I think that Jesus came and demonstrated that he was a pretty emotional guy. He felt a lot of ups and downs, and I think it was okay. And he gave us permission to be vulnerable and to lean on each other and to express those emotions openly in front of others, especially other men. The book is an easy read in that I try to have each chapter be concise and clear about what the topic is in each chapter. So you could just linger on the chapter that really resonates with you. But it is deep because it's been through my experience personally, but also working with people like these things work to help you grow and to transform and to heal.
But I wonder about for you, if we were to somehow find middle school you in our DeLorean time machine, and we were to somehow take you with us on that journey, would that middle school you recognize the young lady sitting before me?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
Middle school me was just trying to survive a whole lot of chaos and trauma in my personal life, trying to fit in into a culture that I didn't feel accepted me unless I acted a certain way. I was busy trying to find friends who would like me. I think at that age, I probably started liking boys already. So there might have been some attempts at some those jeans that you used to wear in the 70s and those platform shoes. So there's all of that. I was probably much more focused on that superficial, just trying to fit in and find acceptance. I am in such a different place now where I don't need to fit in. I want to belong, and I have my people and I have my places where I belong. And that's all really great. And it's unexpected. It's not in the ways that I thought it would have been back in those days. I had dreams to have a very wealthy job, a Mercedes convertible. I mean, all these dreams that were ridiculous in the end because it wouldn't have been the thing I wanted now. So it's a good question. Can I turn around on you?
Well, I don't know if middle school me would recognize me. I mean, I hope he would. I don't know. That's why I like the question, but I hate the question. I never want to have to answer it, so I always make other people answer it.
But you get to be the host.
Yeah, that's why I host and don't guest too often.
Yes.
Listen, man, I think he would see fragments of himself. Felt on some level, I got to perform. I got to do this. I got to do that. I have this like laundry list of all these things I need to do to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, to be appreciated, to be considered. I mean, we joked about the star on the Walk of Fame. Maybe it's not that, but maybe it's something else that they're like, if I don't do this or if I don't have that, if I don't get this, nobody's going to see me. Nobody's going to care.
Well, I think that goes back to our original design. We were designed to be loved, to be seen, to be of infinite worth, to matter. We were designed to be that way. Life, parents, and school teachers and bullies tell us otherwise. Or they tell us, if you are good, then I will love you. If you succeed at this, then I will accept you. I mean, we learn the if-then principle. As a little kid, even though our deep human longing is to be seen and to belong and to be loved and to be of worth, we are told lies that it's based on the if-then. And so we do all the ifs as much as we can. It doesn't seem to get us the result that we're longing for. And so we're constantly chasing that thing when the whole thing about rebecoming is undoing, unbecoming, all that stuff that we thought we had to do and be to be loved. And that's hard. It kind of works for us. It works in the sense that it gives us a momentary high or momentary applause or whatever it might be, or we have a like, and that just lifts up our mood on social media. And it's shallow, as you know, because it's always so empty and constantly flowing out, and there's not enough flowing in, that it's letting go of those things and then being able to go, okay, if I am really loved, then who am I? What makes me unique? And the fact that you talked about yourself being different, I think God loves that about you. He made you quirky that way on purpose. He likes that you see things in picture. He likes that you get frustrated when you can't get your technology working, but what the heck, you're going to make it happen anyway. I mean, he likes so many things about you. He likes that you have that longing to gain his approval. And he's just saying to you, like, Neil, you have it already. You don't have to be working so hard to achieve it. I know you know that in your head because of past injuries, past experiences that taught us the if then, it's hard for that to be real. So part of the rebecoming process is doing the work to find healing in those areas so that you're able to receive the truth that you are someone who is beloved and does belong and is of infinite worth. And you are wonderful in all your weird, quirky, messy humanity. I think as Christians, we've kind of messed up the whole thing about sin. So if we're less than perfect, we call it sin. But I don't think perfect is the goal. I don't think Jesus was perfect in the sense of he never smelled. He never was a goofball when he was growing up as a teenager with his mom. He took off on them, in fact, and didn't tell them. He was perfectly good. So I don't think our pursuit is for perfection, whatever that means, or being the best at this or best or that. It's being you in all your human excellence and just being the best version of yourself. And what does that mean? I mean, I don't know until Jesus comes back or we're in glory, what that looks like. But I think the growth journey is the thing where we become more and more the best version of ourselves, a practical growth in character, being a good person, doing things to help others and to help this world.
Well, I love that. Obviously, a little vulnerable on my side. Don't love that part. I love that we can dialogue on that. To me, I feel like life is a lot like a retail store. We walk down the aisle, we see the things that catch our eye. Maybe it's the certain color, or it's the certain pattern, or it's the certain thing. And we pick it up and we look at it and we maybe, hold it up to ourselves or we hold it out and we like, and we kind of hem and haw over it. And then undoubtedly, I know I do this and I think others probably echo it as well. We look at the price tag and we do the
Yes.
we do the gymnastics in our head. Okay, if I buy this, I can't buy this, or if I get this, then I can't get that. Or maybe we look at the price tag and we go, oh my goodness, that can just stay right here. That's too expensive. That's out of my budget. Or I liked it, but then I saw the price tag. Now I don't like it anymore because I'm not going to pay $50 for it. I wonder about that with people. When we meet somebody, when we interact with them, we look at them, we look them up and down and we think, man, that's really cool. I like that attribute. I like that trait. I like that they have brown eyes. I like that they have hazel eyes. I like that about them. I really like that she has brown hair. That color on her looks really nice. We do this thing about them. And then maybe as we get to know them, we're realizing, oh man, those things I used to like, I don't necessarily like anymore. Like it doesn't fit right anymore. Maybe like that shirt that we just got. Or maybe they're too expensive. We look at them and we think, oh, there's no way I could hang out with them. They're out of my league, out of my budget. That's only designed for that specific event. But I wonder about that in life. What is the danger if we started to view people like a retail store in your mind?
Well, they're disposable on one hand, especially if they're made in China. I don't mean that disrespectfully to the Chinese. I'm talking about the garments. They're also something that you measure yourself against, and you're either better than they are or you're worse than they are, or a relationship you acquire based on your perceived view of their value. And then when they're no longer value, then you move on. That's not how we're wired. We're wired for deep connections with God and with others. And because we live in a world of broken human beings, ourselves included, we will, if we're honest with ourselves in every single one of our relationships, kind of go, if I could return this model and get a different one, if I could break up with that friend. I mean, we all have those moments because it gets hard, as you know. Love is not easy. Sticking with through a conflict or a disagreement or when someone hurts you deeply is really hard work. Now, having said that, from a healthy standpoint, there are times where you try and try and try and try, and you know that the other person is making absolutely no efforts to own their part of it. Because really, at the end of the day, it's own your own stuff. If the other person's not willing to own their stuff, and they're actually causing you, let's say you accidentally bought a material that you're allergic to, and no matter how much you try to wash it and work it out, you're still getting rashes all over your body. Well, you just got to eventually let that garment go. And sometimes people cause rashes in your life. And no matter what you do, they are rash causers and they don't want to change. So there's times where those relationships, for your health and sanity, and also for you to be the best version of yourself, wasting so much energy trying to change them rather than working on yourself, that you still have your rashes anyway, and they haven't changed. And what was all that for? So that's when you have the wisdom to kind of go, okay, I need to find somebody who I can be really my true authentic self. And that goes back to the belonging thing. And belonging is that you can be yourself, your growing work in progress self, and know that you are loved regardless. And those are the kinds of relationships that where we find life, where we are able to work through stuff together, where we can face our shame head on because we know we are loved, even if they see the worst parts of us. Those are the good ones we hang on to, our true blues.
And that's the joy that I've found in our new house. One of the joys. My wife and I have a closet, shared closet. It's a walk-in closet, and it's huge. It's very big. And
it's amazing. I would love that.
Yeah. Had friends come over since the house has been built, and everyone wants a tour, and I love playing tour guide Neil and showing everybody all the things and pointing out all the things. And we had this gal came over, and her name's Brooke, and Brooke goes, well, I can tell whose side is whose. I was like, oh, how can you tell, Brooke? She goes, well, look at all the light blue. Like, is there another shirt? Is there another color? And I like reached down way in like the recesses of the closet, like the way back part of the closet, emerged with this Flash from DC Comics, the Flash. I said, look, it's a red shirt. She goes, where's that been? And I go, well, it's it's got to be down here. It can't be with all the light blue. Hello, got to stay color coordinated. And she said, I didn't even think you owned another shirt that wasn't light blue. I was like, well, I have a few, as you can see. Not many, but a few.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. I don't like the color red. And I think so many times people are like, listen, just give it a try. Just try it on. Just see if it works. Just see if it fits. Just try it on. And I try it on and I look at it and I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't me.
Right.
And I think so many times in our world right now, people are trying things on and they're looking at things and they're looking at their life and they're like, okay, I'm going to try this on. I'm going to try to wear it for a while. And then they realize this isn't who I am. So for you, have you ever hit that moment in your life where you're like, okay, this isn't who I am anymore. I got to go back to, in my world, I would say, I got to go back to the light blue. In your world, you might say, I got to go back to the purple. How does someone do that in your mind? And how have you done that?
It's a constant thing. I think I want something, and then when I get there I realize I don't. I have in the past thought I wanted to do certain jobs or roles. Now I look back and I realize I did it because I just wanted to belong, and that seemed to me the place to belong. And so I tried. I really tried. Didn't last long in one place particularly because it was just not the right fit. It was a place that made me feel less than. For me, a lot has to do with my sense of purpose and value, and that I have a voice. And I'm still discovering that, as an Asian female Christian, I've been raised to kind of be cooperative and nice. And so learning to speak up and say, no, this is not for me, has taken some time. The other situation, I was in it for a very, very long time. And I had all sorts of things I said to myself to say, no, this fits, this is right, even though it was causing a rash. Back to my analogy. And it wasn't until I finally got to the point where I was so hurt. My husband said to me, you have got to leave. You have got to leave. And I was like, I can't. Can I? And then all of a sudden, I said, I'm leaving. And I left the situation, and I look back and I wonder what took me so long to leave. I was trying so hard to fit into that. For me, it would be, well, I like purple, so I'll keep that color. That orange shirt I thought was mine to wear. My responsibility to bear. That took a long time to get out of that situation. So it was pretty significant.
I think that's the problem in life right now is people are trying so hard to fit into the right color, the right sweater, the right pattern, because they want the likes, they want the follows, they want the whatevers. Again, they look at the Joe Rogans of the world in my podcasting world, or maybe the Kathy Lee Giffords of the world, daytime talk shows of the world, if they still have those anymore, because I work, so I don't know if there's daytime talk shows. I don't know. The Sally Jesse Raphaels of the world, that's way back in the machine.
Yes.
They want the Phil Donahues. I had to keep going. But they want all of that. What you're trying to say is, no, God has created you to be so much more than that. It's not rebecoming Dan Rather. It's rebecoming you.
That's right.
It's you.
And when you rebecome you and you live the youiest you will experience more joy, even if it means fewer followers. A podcast that maybe you have fewer loyal listeners who are growing and are loving what you're doing, versus podcasts that may have millions of listeners. Do you want those listeners?
Couldn't agree more. Well, how can people find you? Speaking of all things social media, where can people go to connect with you? Where's the best place that somebody could learn more about you and maybe get a copy of the book?
Well, I have a personal website, drmary.com, and hopefully you'll have a link to it. It's spelled DRMERRY because it's like Christmas, drmary.com, or Dr. Mary Linn on Instagram. Any of those places, you can click a link, and then I've got multiple links to other sites of things that I do. So, because I have a YouTube channel and all the usual, right? So on Amazon or Barnes & Nobles, if you Google Rebecoming by Dr. Mary Linn, you'll see it pop right up. So
And on Baker Books, right? We got to give a shout
Baker
out to
Books,
Baker
yep.
Books.
Mhm.
Right? Okay.
You get 30% off if you buy from them directly.
Nice. Who doesn't want a discount? All right.
Exactly.
Well, Mary, it's that time in the show where we play the fastest growing game in the podcast community. Let's turn it over to our main man, Zach, for Heel Hustle. Here we go.
It's now that time in the show to play the fastest growing game in the podcast world. We call it Heel Hustle. Today our guest will try to answer all 6 of these questions in 60 seconds or less to win an Amazon gift card. Amazon not responsible for this commercial spot, nor did they pay to let us use their name. Audience, feel free to play at home. Are you ready? Let's put 60 seconds on that clock. Ready, set, hustle!
The game begins in 3, 2,
All right, 60 seconds. One person you would trade places with for a week.
For a week. Can it be a dog, a golden retriever? That would be the best life, honestly.
All right, golden retriever. I like it. Guilty pleasure.
Chocolate.
Nice. Best compliment you ever received.
Oh gosh, I hate compliments. You're a good writer.
Nice.
Because I'm trying to come up with
Worst piece of advice you ever received.
to stop it.
Okay. What's something you wish you were better at?
Playing the piano. I'm starting to get back to doing it.
Okay. What's something that never fails to make you laugh? Hurry.
My husband, his laugh is big and huge. He always makes me laugh.
Aww.
I know.
And that's our game, Heel Hustle. How fun is that? Yeah.
That's very fun.
Yeah.
It was stressful though. Oh my gosh.
The music is stressful.
I know.
I've heard from several people that have said, can you get rid of the music? I'm like, no, that's the best part.
That's the countdown music.
Countdown too. Somebody was like, I don't know if I can do this. 60 seconds it's not that long. I'm like, I know. It goes fast. Yes, I know. Dr. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all that you gave and all that you shared, and we just love your energy. And I just have to say this too. It's not every day that a guest sends a personal gift to me. That hasn't happened very often. I can actually probably count on both my hands, so maybe not even both hands, where somebody has sent a gift to us. So I just want to say on behalf of everyone here, thank you for the slippers, slides. They're a tealish light blue color. I got to wear them like once or twice, and then someone stole them.
Oh no.
Yeah.
They were just so adorable. Someone stole them. Or was it your wife?
I'm not going to name names, but you might have named said person.
Oh, they are pretty comfortable.
She tried them on and she goes, I really like these. And I said, they're not yours, they're mine. And then she used the line, classic line, well, whatever is mine is now hers. And
Yes.
whatever is hers is still hers.
It's hers. That's right.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Her name is Elizabeth, the queen.
Well, Elizabeth, enjoy your shoes, your slippers. They're
Killing me.
now yours.
Killing me. All right, guys and gals, kids and campers alike, that is it. That is all. That is, in fact, our show today. So before we go, I got to ask this question. And it's hard to ask, but it's also so important to ask. And that's this. What are we going to do with the things in our life that really bring us down? Now, I know, what a way to end the show, kind of on a downer. Wah, wah, wah. But think about it just for a second. Like, just think for a second. Going back to my retail therapy, maybe analogy. I love Ross. I love Ross Dress for Less. Hopefully they have those in Canada. I don't know if they do or not. I've never been there, but maybe. But I know they have them around the United States. And I know they have bargain deals. I've bought a lot of shoes there. Let me just tell you, Ross is my go-to spot for shoes. Now you know my secret, okay? I'm letting you in behind the curtain. Is there somebody in your life that you're like, you know what? I can't be at home with that person. They're wool, and I'm allergic to wool. They're polyester, and I don't look good in polyester. They're polka dotted. I can't stand the polka dotted pattern. They're argyle, and that's just hideous. Why would anyone ever wear argyle? Well, let me ask you this as we go. Just a quick question, again, as we wrap, and that's this. Have you ever thought of maybe, rebecoming, or maybe trying on what they've been trying to tell you, or trying on their style, their attributes, their way? It's hard. People suck. People are mean. But I wonder, have we ever really come home to the fact that maybe, just maybe, we have to at least see their worldview and try it on? You don't have to wear it forever. You don't have to do it all the time. But maybe if we could just try what it feels like to be them for a second. Now, listen, I'm not saying every relationship needs to be honored. I'm not saying everything needs to, we have to do all this. But I'm just saying, could we at least try it on? Try it on. See if it fits. If it doesn't fit, it's okay, but at least we try. Think about that as we get out of here today. I also want to leave you with this. Don't forget, remember, when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned until next week as we walk in other people's shoes.